Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I'm bringing you news of an exciting new supporter card in the Pokemon trading card game. It is Hala, or Kahuna Hala, as I prefer to call them, and as I hope the card will be called in the English-speaking world, Europe and America and all that good stuff. Now, what does it do? Well, you shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 4 cards. If you've already used a GX attack this game, then draw 7 cards instead. Remember, GX attacks are 1 per game of any description, so either you've used your only one or you haven't. Now, in the worst case scenario, this is like an enter 4 or a judge or a red card. You get 4. This is not terrible, because if you've got nothing in your hand, if you've got a hand of 0 or 1 of Hala, or if you've got absolutely nothing playable in your hand, refreshing your hand to 4 is better than nothing. So it's never going to be terrible. But if you can get 7, that's better than an N on the first turn of the game. That's better than a Professor Oak's new theory for those of you that played back then. So, to put it another way, it's alright when you haven't used a GX attack, and really quite good when you have. Most of the time this means alright in the early game, really good in the late game, which should make some of you think of the card Colrus. Colrus allowed you to draw 1 card for every Pokemon on each player's bench, after shuffling your hand into your deck, and it was a similar kind of, I don't want it turn 1, but in the late game, oh my goodness, you wanted a Colrus. Now really here, it depends on the GX attack you're using, and this will often depend on the deck you're playing. So if we take something like Decidueye's Hollow Hunt, you get to take cards out of your discard, put them into your hand. Not every single game, but most of the time here, Decidueye's Hollow Hunt is going to be a late game GX. You are going to be using it to get the cards you need to take the last KO or 2, maybe a Versus Seeker or Special Energy or something of that description. So in that situation, Hala's not going to be a great card, because if you're using your GX attack late, it means Hala's not going to have much time to shine. But if we've got a GX attack that sets you up from turn 1, Hala's going to be amazing. Now the best example of this I can think of top of my head is Drampa GX. It's coming out in Guardians Rising, not officially confirmed, but it's coming out in Guardians Rising. And the GX attack, shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 10 cards. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a great use of your GX attack. However, if you have to use this early game because you've got nothing, then that means that your Halas for the rest of the game are going to be really, really good. So if you are focused on using Drampa's GX attack, and I've already said I don't think you should, but some games you might have to, really good. If you're using Decidueye, probably not very good. If we take your average Pokemon something like a Tauros GX, well, this is going to be an as and when kind of GX attack. Tauros GX allows you to essentially do 3 times as much damage as you have on you with Mad Bull GX. Now, sometimes your opponent will have a really fast start and you'll be wanting to take down their one good attacker. Other times it's going to be late game and you're going to need to just stop your opponent winning the game. So, if you're playing Tauros and you're expecting to use Tauros's GX attack, well, we don't know how good this is going to be. Because some games you'll be using this really early, Hala becomes amazing. Some games you'll be using it really late, Hala's not particularly good. But the one card that really makes Hala really, really good is Versus Seeker. Versus Seeker means you can play 1 or 2 copies of Hala, get it in your discard pile, discard it with something like Sycamore or Ultra Ball or something like that, and then you can reuse it throughout the game with Versus Seeker. If you have used a GX attack, grab Hala. If you haven't used a GX attack, grab something like N instead. And that is, I think, for the moment, the best use of this card. I think it should probably be a one-of in almost every deck. In the late game, being able to grab 7 new cards is amazing. Now, that's really good with Sycamore, but we've all had games where you can't Sycamore because you want 1 or 2 cards that's left in your deck, but you also need a card that's in your hand that you can't play yet. I've lost many a game because I need new cards, but I've got one prize left. I can't play N because I won't draw enough cards. I can't play Sycamore because I need to keep some of the stuff that's in my hand. We've all had those games. And those are the games when Hala is amazing, because now you get to just grab 7 new cards. It's more than you'll get late game from an N, and you don't have to discard your hand like you do with Sycamore, which I've had games before where my only way to win is to draw cards that I cannot draw because I cannot play a Sycamore without losing. So really here for Hala, it's a good card. Let's make no mistake about that. It's a very good card. It will be a one-of in an awful lot of decks. Versus Seeker makes it amazing. If you have a deck where you really want an early game GX attack, and honestly I don't think we have any amazing got to be used early game GX attacks, Hala is brilliant and you want to play many of them. In a deck like Decidueye where you're not expecting to use your GX attack till late in the game, it's a lot less good. But most decks are going to want to play 1 or 2 Hala so that in the late game they can go ahead and find a card that they need using this, because often Sycamore is too much in the late game and N just doesn't net you enough cards. Now before we give this an appropriate number of Wassies, I will give you one example of a card that might be using this early game, Solgaleo GX. Now I'm still not sold on Solgaleo, but 1 energy, search and attach a whole bunch of energy. You can see why people might be using this early game, although stage 2 means maybe not that early. I mean, it's turn 2 absolute earliest, and a lot of the time it won't even be turn 2. But Solgaleo is an example. If your deck is built around using Soul Burst GX, then Hala's going to be really good. Right, there we go. Now I've got a better example than Drampa for an early game GX attack. So, let's give Hala 4 Wassies. I was going to give it between 3 or 4. Let's give it 4 Wassies. I think this is a one-of in an awful lot of decks, but I do not think it's a 4-of in many. But the fact that it is going to be a near staple, especially as we lose other good supporters, means 4 Wassies seems fair to me. Now, you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen. There is a comment section. Go nuts, be nice. There are buttons to both like this video and subscribe to this channel. It would make me exceedingly happy if you would use them both. You can follow me on Twitter @TheWassie, and the most important thing as always is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.